If you want to cut out 3D models on your CNC, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that with Fusion 360. I'll show you how to import your model, resize it to what you need, create a roughing and a final toolpath, and finally, how to set it up and finish it so it looks amazing. Let's get started. We're going to start on a blank canvas, and the first thing I like to do with 3D modeling like this is to create a sketch, and we're going to create it on the top plane. We'll click on that top plane. And then we're going to draw a rectangle right around the origin. So under rectangle, go to the far right and say center rectangle. Click, drag. And now we'll dimension it to the size of wood that we have. So 4 inches by 12 inches. Say finish sketch. Then we can import our model. So just go to insert mesh, and then you can select it from your computer. Mine's just in this download file, and it's a crocodile. By the way, I just bought this on Etsy. There's lots of places online like Thingiverse and various other places where you can buy a model. Now, a lot of times it will import it as inches, and as you can see, it's so much bigger than this. So if we just change the units to millimeter, it becomes a lot more bearable to move around. We're going to rotate it so it's close to the position we want, and it gives you these nice marks right here. So we'll just rotate it 90 degrees. We're going to position it along the center, and that makes it just easier to deal with later. Press OK. Now what we want to do is scale it so it actually fits onto the piece of wood that we're going to be using. So under Modify, you're going to say Scale. We'll click on our point, and then we'll just start dragging this, and you can zoom in and just get it to so it fits how you want. And the further you zoom in, or you can just write in numbers manually. We want to leave a little excess, so we'll just say that's good enough for now. Press OK. And now we know that it'll also fit onto the piece of wood that we will be carving into. Now we can go into our manufacturing tab and start with the design. We'll create a new setup. And since we're doing it on the top plane, and we had our sketch going long ways in the X, short ways in the Y, we're actually already set up for our stock point and model orientation. So what we're going to do is go to the stock tab. We're going to make a fixed box size since I know what the size of the wood I'll be using is. The depth will make 4 inches, and the height is actually 0.55 for me. By the way, if you find this video useful or helpful, make sure you like the video and subscribe to my page for more Fusion and CNC videos. If you want to look at how thick the actual model is, go back to the Design tab, right-click, and choose Properties. Then what you're going to do is click this down arrow for the bounding box, and it'll show you that I have it set to 11.7 inches, width is 2.8, and the height is 4.492. And we can use that over in the design tab or just to make sure that you have enough material to cut. So we'll hop back into our setup, go back to the stock size, and we're just going to double check the Z height. Press OK. We have our stock set up, and now we can start working on our programming. So the first thing we're going to do is make a clearing toolpath. So click on this 3D and say pocket clearing. We're going to select our tool, and for this one I already have a 1/4 inch end mill set up, so we'll use that one. We'll go over to the geometry tab. Bounding box is fine. We can unclick rest machining. For heights, we'll leave that all the same. Then we can go in the passings tab, and we want to keep on stock to leave. The maximum roughing step down, we'll leave this as is for now. We'll also leave this for now just to be able to see what it looks like. And take note that we're using a helix and a 2-degree angle. Press OK. And this will be pretty quick. So now we have a time of 40 minutes. And we'll press F7 to hide the tools. And you have something that actually really does look like a pretty cool croc already. This is a lot more detail than really needs to be cut out. So we're going to right click and say edit. And another thing I'm going to want to do is cut out the perimeter a little bit so that it cuts through and I don't have to figure out how to cut it out later. We'll make it 0.15. And this gives space for the bit to actually go even with the tolerances. For the height, we're going to change the bottom height to the stock bottom with no offset. And we're going to put the top height to the stock height with no zero. Okay. For the passes, we're going to change the roughing step down to 0.125. This will take away stock a lot faster, but our bit's nice and sharp and it's just wood. So we're fine with cutting in pretty deep and making this a real rough cut. For linking, we want the tool to stay down as long as possible. So I'm going to just make that at 100. For helix, we'll leave it at a helix, but we don't need a 2-degree angle. Let's make it 30 and press OK. So now we're down to a 10-minute toolpath that also cuts it out. We're going to press F7 so we can kind of see what's going on here. So we zeroed at the top. And now rather than like 80 islands, we have 3. And if you want to do more detail than this, obviously you can. If you want to do, say, half of this, you're still going to save a ton of time and still get a very nice looking cut. So now that we have our roughing pass done, we can do a finishing pass. And this is going to come out and bring out all the awesome details of this crocodile. I like to do parallel path for this. And we're going to change the tool. For this one, I'm going to make a new tool. We're going to do a ball end mill that's going to have a 0.75 millimeter ball. For the cutter, switch over to the cutter tab. We have ball end mill. It's 2 flutes. Our diameter will be 0.75 millimeter. Press tab and it'll calculate it for you. We'll go to the cutting data and make that one 100 inches per minute. For ramp feed, we'll make it 75. And plunge will make 50. And this obviously isn't a direct tool that I'll be using. I'm going to be using one of these carving bits. This information is just so that you know what the tool is going to do. If you do want to go into more detail, you obviously can, but for this particular design, you do not have to. Press accept and select. Great. We're going to switch over to the geometry tab. And for this, it does an excellent job of just picking exactly what it needs to do. So we'll just go right to the heights tab. We'll leave everything here the same. Go to the passes tab. We don't have to do multiple depths since we already did the roughing passes. This one is unique because we aren't going to pick a step over. We'll actually be using the cusp height, which is just how tall the ridges are. The smaller the step over, the smaller the bumps and the smoother surface, but it's going to take a lot more machining time. So I'm going to make this 0.00075 because I don't want it to take forever, and it's still about 1/4 of a piece of paper in thickness. So that should be plenty fine for the detail I'm looking for. So into the linking tab, we're going to put our maximum stay down all the way at 100, and that's really all we need to do for this one. Press OK. All right, so there we have a ton of detail going in here. If you press F7, it'll hide the carves, and you can see it looks pretty awesome. There's a ton of detail that we have in here already. But we do want to get rid of these little tabby things that are coming up over here. So let's go back in, press edit. We'll do an additional offset of 0.02, and that should get rid of those little tabs that are showing up. There we go. And you have a beautiful looking crocodile. So now that we're happy with our toolpath and we have this awesome looking crocodile, if you want it to take less time, all you have to do is go back to the edit tab and change your number of passes or your cusp height. But once again, the larger the cusp height, the less detail it'll be. If you want more detail, you make this number smaller. And now we can save these toolpaths. We need to save them as 2 separate files. I'll show you how to do one. And if you want more details on other methods of carving, make sure you check out this video where I go into full detail of all the 2D toolpaths that we use. So right click and say create NC program. For this one, we'll just name it Croc roughing. 0.25 end mill. I would like to make sure that my safe retract is at the clearance height and press post. This will save it and then just copy it to your USB or however you get it to your CNC controlling software. And that's it. I'll see you in the shop. I glued 2 pieces of 1/4 inch maple together, and this is what we're going to be carving our crocodile into. To hold it down, I'm going to be using the blue tape method, which is basically you just layer on blue tape onto your piece of wood, as well as your spoil board. Then you'll use CA glue and CA glue kicker, which I left all of that in the description, along with the bits I'm using, if you want to check them out. And once we have that in place, I'm going to bring my tool over to the center of the model, which is where we had our 0 started. I'll use the piece of paper method to find our Z0, and then we'll start carving. This one goes pretty quick. Once we're ready, we'll switch into our engraving bit. We'll get going, and this one will obviously take much longer, but we'll end up with this awesome looking crocodile at the end. Then I'll use just a painter's tool and pop it off of the spoil board. You can see that the detail is pretty awesome, but we do have some fuzzies on there. To get rid of these fuzzies, I'll do a couple coats of shellac, let it dry, and then use an abrasive pad to try to knock them off. I definitely recommend getting higher quality ones here. I used these cheaper ones and it did leave a little bit of residue in there. So go over the entire thing, make sure all the shellac is nice and smooth. You can even go over the scales a bit. And once you're happy with how smooth it is, we'll do another couple coats of shellac and we are all done and have this awesome looking alligator. If you found this video helpful, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I have a lot more videos coming on Fusion 360 and CNC work. I'll see you for the next one.